Crowhill here. Today we review a blonde and discuss the history of the self. Hey, good evening,
Well, Crowhill, good evening,
right.
good evening. How about some beer and conversation?
That sounds like a great idea. What are we drinking?
This is not just a blonde, it's a Belgian strong blonde.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Very good.
I'd like to review her.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
All right, so what's on your mind?
Well, you know, I met this kid. He's like 10 years old.
Yeah.
And this kid was working on his personal brand.
The age?
Yeah. What was
brand.
your personal brand when you were 10?
Yeah, when I was 10 years
When you were
old.
10 years old, it was like my personal brand was riding my bike and trying not to do homework. You know?
Yeah, that's about it.
This kid is working on audience segmentation and
Yeah.
what's his message and
Sounds unhealthy.
It does. But I think it's kind of this strange thing that people, the self, is almost like a product these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a symptom of the age. And how did we get here?
Exactly. That's the
Well,
question. All right. But first, let's drink this beer. And who's this crazy fellow?
Well, there's a little gnome, and it's a Belgian beer,
Yeah.
and everything is in French, except for the little explanation on the back is in English, but mostly it's in French.
Mm-hmm.
And La Chouffe, is that it?
La Chouffe, which is apparently a play on this gnome-like character.
So it's not. It
It's
doesn't.
not even a real word.
It doesn't directly translate to gnome or elf, but I don't know what a playful French word is.
Right.
But that is
Yeah.
something like that.
Something like that.
Anyway, I got that was a birthday present.
All
from my
right,
son,
very good.
And
8%, 11.2 ounces. These Europeans, you know, I think we should declare war on Europe and require them
to return
our
our
our 0.8 ounces. Yeah. Come on, I'm getting tired of it. Yeah. So anyway, it tastes. It has when you first pour it, it has a lovely lacy white head.
Yeah.
It's a relatively clear beer until you pour the last little tiny bit, which has some yeast in the bottle.
I got some cloud when
You got a little
when
bit
I
of
swirled
cloud.
it.
Yeah. And it tastes like a blonde ale, and
It tastes like, the textbook. Like if you're wondering what is a Belgian Belgian strong blonde?
yeah,
That's it. It's got everything. It's got the strength. It's got the distinct Belgian yeast.
Yeah.
Now, is that also? Am I smelling just the yeast, or am I smelling some coriander?
yeah, that's a good question. I'm not
Because it says with coriander, and
I'm
frankly,
not-
off
I'm
the
not
top of my
detecting.
head, I can't imagine what coriander tastes like.
Well, I can, but I'm not smelling or tasting
It's-
coriander particularly. I am getting a slightly spicy feel, but I'm not. I wouldn't
Yes.
identify as a coriander.
Yes, it's right. There's a spiciness.
Maybe
in the
almost
back end.
peppery instead of coriander.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's very good, and easy to drink, and 8%, which is kind of nice. Yeah, there you go. All right, so
This is not
This
our
is self.
first. This is not our first rodeo.
no,
here.
not our first foray into
So
this question.
we've done narcissists and narcissism.
Yeah.
We've explored the idea, the modern idea of expressive individualism.
Right. Yeah.
We're talking about
Yep,
that.
yep.
And then we did the take your authentic self to work.
Right, exactly.
Show.
Yeah.
So we've already been down the road of.
But it is an
the
interesting, yes, we have, but it's an interesting topic, and it comes up a lot of different ways. And I thought, when you said, let's talk about the self, I thought, let's just go visit a self-storage place and open up and see what they look like.
Wouldn't be the longest podcast we ever did, but
This is the self, old chairs.
But this self here. So when I came across the self on by Stephen West,
Okay.
talking about Charles Taylor, who is a Canadian philosopher.
Stephen West is one of our favorites. He does a lot of interesting stuff.
He is
Yeah.
great,
Yeah.
and he said so. He is discussing Charles Taylor's goes back and gives the history of the self.
Right.
I said,
Yeah.
well, that sounds really interesting and right
Yeah.
up my alley.
Yes. Yes. Very
So
good.
we've always had selves, but we
Well,
haven't
have we?
always thought of ourselves the way that we think now.
Definitely not. Absolutely not.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so Taylor takes it back to ancient Greece.
Right.
So, 2,500 years ago. And what does he say about how did we think of ourselves?
Well, at that time, it was more your community, your role, your religion, other things, external things kind of defined the self more than what we do today.
Yeah.
Where nowadays everybody's supposed to make up their own self. But the ancient concept of the self was much more tied to your, who you were in a position, in a relationship to others, in a community.
I'm Aramaeus, son of Aristophanes.
Right. And I'm of the clan, Athens. Whatever. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, so that's where your identity and sense of self came from. You if you were to go down to and petition the government or some, you would be on behalf of a group of some kind.
And that view,
like I'm an individual and I want this.
Yeah.
Well, that's not
that view of getting your sense of self from your community, we don't have to go back to Greece for that. I mean, just 100 years ago or so, people would say, well, as a Scotsman or, as a Brit or as an American or as a whatever, people had some sense that their self-identity was tied to where they lived, who their friends were, as a Baptist, as a Jew, as a whatever.
John the Elder? No, John the Younger. You're the son of John the carpenter.
Yes,
right?
So there was until even relatively recently this sense that your sense of self came from who you were in a community.
Right. All right. What's our next chronological step in this? In the self.
To remind me.
Then Saint Augustine and early Christianity.
Yeah. So here you're getting a little more self-reflective. I heard somebody say that Augustine's Confessions was like the first modern work in the sense of kind of reflecting on yourself and looking at yourself in a.
So being a pious person wasn't performing the acts, and your church attendance and tithing and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was looking at your
recognition of the moral self that's inside.
That's right. So, and that is one thing about the concept of the self is that it is this reflective thing. I saw this interesting quote: "The self is not the thinker. The self is the thing the thinker constructs and then thinks about."
Yeah, that's tongue twisty, but I get you.
Yeah. So this idea of the self is a relatively reflexive thing. You're not just thinking; you're thinking about what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And you're not just feeling; you're thinking about what you're feeling.
Yeah.
You're kind of examining what's going on inside.
Right, and so then Taylor says then things shift a little bit more selfishly with the Protestant Reformation.
Sure. Yeah.
And that now, before, when everybody spoke, when the sermon was in Latin and nobody could read, and you're just getting, the religion fed to you.
Yeah.
And then with the Protestant Reformation, you start to have more of a personal relationship.
Yeah, although that is actually a little bit of a misrepresentation. The sermon was always in the vernacular. It was the mass and the readings were in Latin.
Okay.
Yeah. The sermon was in the vernacular.
Yeah.
But so they read this stuff in Latin which you didn't understand, and then they explained it in the vernacular.
But you kind of got used to hearing it in Latin enough that you're like,
oh,
I know what's going on here.
Yes, that's right.
If you couldn't translate word for word.
And Luther was definitely obsessed with himself. He would go to confession and list
he didn't confess it well enough.
Exactly. He would confess all of his sins, and then he'd walk out. I forgot one, or he would think, he'd go into confession, he'd confess everything, and he'd walk out and go, no, there's another one. He'd commit another sin. So this self-reflective, self-critical, very harsh, demanding view of self was what was the genesis of Luther's change.
So Taylor points out that the next person that he goes to is Descartes in the Enlightenment, and now you've got the mind-body split.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a big one, and so this is the idea that that there's a you that is separate from their body.
Yeah, it's the ghost in the machine and all that. Yeah,
and you can sort of extract yourself.
Yes,
from, like, your body is not really part of yourself. The self is this internal.
Yeah, and that's a confusing one, and I think that gets back to when people talk about like life after death. You know, what is this thing that survives you?
Yeah.
Like what? Okay, your body is gone, but there's some thing that's you that is surviving you. Yeah. That's kind of what Descartes is getting at. And obviously people had a conception of that before because people believed in life after death, although in a lot of ways it was a bodily sort of a connection. The resurrection is resurrection in a body.
So even the soul wasn't necessarily a disembodied soul.
Well, there was still a concept of the soul being disembodied for some certain amount of time, but then eventually you would be resurrected in a new body. So the idea of the soul being separate from the body was sort of a transitional, temporary, spooky, not very nice thing. The idea of the soul being in a body is a very Jewish biblical concept, that the body is a very important thing. And Descartes is like saying, no, that there's this spirit that just sort of like runs the body, like the body is a robot and the spirit is the programming or something.
And you could take a rational view of your physical actions from almost from an external self perspective, right? So within the Enlightenment, you also had John Locke and the blank slate. So that you now are getting into territory where you can mold the self.
Yeah,
right?
And this is fat. The whole blank slate thing. Steven Pinker wrote a book called The Blank Slate, which is very interesting, and it's this concept that you are a blank slate that you or society or somebody can write on, and it totally misses the idea of how much might be genetic. Yeah, how much might be what happens to you in development in the womb, what happens to you as you're a child, things that you can't even remember, all these things that affected you as you were growing up. And those things clearly have a strong impact on what kind of a person you're going to be.
But it does affect, thinking like that affects the concept of the self.
Yes.
As not a thing that's independently developed.
Yeah.
That it can be molded and changed, and you can mold and change.
Yeah, well, that's another component of it that's very interesting. Is it's not just that your genetics and your experiences mold yourself, but that you can change yourself. You can decide, I'm going to be more this way.
Right. And it sounds obvious to the modern ear, but wasn't always thought of that way.
Yeah, I think not. I think a lot of people just kind of assumed that they were the way they were, and that's
that's how you are. Now, then we have David Hume argues morality arises from sentiment, not reason or divine command. Yeah. So I think before this, let's go back to the Greeks real quick.
Right.
There is moral order, and you need to align yourself with the moral order.
Yes.
And if you don't, then, there are bad consequences to that. And it maybe the whole town has lost its moral way, and that's why we had a bad harvest. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So in the Enlightenment, you're getting separated from that idea. The divine command of how the self is supposed to behave isn't what it used to be. You have control over that.
Well, there's certainly a switch from viewing this idea that the divine command determines morality. It is a separate idea from, well, wait a minute, we need to kind of rationally think about what's moral. And then when you get beyond that to the idea, Kierkegaard and so forth, you're going to determine for yourself, you're going to make your own idea about what's moral. So there has been a gradual change over time. Nowadays,
that you need to get yourself in line with the moral order that already exists, as opposed to defining the moral order.
Yes, yourself.
Yourself.
Yes.
Speaking of self.
Yes. Which, in a way, I mean, we're talking about this as in a historical the history of the self, but in a way, it takes us back to the Garden of Eden, because the sin of Adam and Eve was to decide for themselves what was right or wrong.
Yeah.
Right. So, in a sense, they're pretty modern.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Then you get to Rousseau and Romanticism.
Yeah.
I think Hume was more like your community helps you determine the right and the wrong.
Yeah.
And Rousseau is that the community is the problem.
Yeah.
The self. What is he saying? Is it already knows what's right and wrong? And society is corrupting. Like, man in his natural state has a natural moral compass.
I get the Rousseau angle seems more like the modern find yourself kind of a concept.
Well, I think this is where we first get into our authenticity.
Okay.
Yeah. That you have to, because up until now, your community has been involved in your sense of self and how you identify with the community. And now we're getting into the authentic self and true nature apart from society. And I think that's really where we're starting to go. Where it goes astray.
I think
we can trace back our modern authenticity problems.
Yeah. Well, I think the modern concept of the self, which is sort of this autonomous, self-interpreting, self-defining thing, right? It puts this huge weight on the person. Like if you're the Greek, and I'm a son of Athens, and I live this way, and you don't have to go out and decide for yourself what's right and what you're going to align with, and what
sounds kind of relaxing, really. I know. Your dad was a cobbler, and you know what I mean. You know what you're going to do, and life is not very confusing.
So freedom, the thing people don't know, freedom is a burden.
Yes.
Like a lack of freedom. If you don't have very many options, okay. I think I've told this story before, but I was driving up this way actually to go to a night class. I was in seminary at the time. I was going to a night class, and I'd been working hard all week. I was tired, and I knew that I was going to fall asleep in class if I didn't have a candy bar and a cup of coffee.
Okay.
So I stopped at this. I picked a Shell station or something. I figured they would have coffee, candy bar, right?
Hey, can you go wrong there?
I pull in, and they've got 14 different types of coffee and 100 different types of candy bars.
Right.
And I just thought...
It's just too much freedom.
I was like, I'm tired. I just want coffee and candy bar, okay? But the freedom...
It could be a white label and black lettering.
Snickers is always a fair bet, so that's what I went for. But the idea is that having the freedom of all these choices can also be a burden.
Yeah.
And nowadays, the modern person, what does he have to do? He has to define what's good. He has to choose a life purpose. He has to build meaning out of a world that he's been taught since he was a child that actually has no meaning. There's just chaos. They have to be an existential hero who carves out their own personal civilization out of a howling wilderness of despair.
Yeah.
And that's the modern self. That's the kid.
It's the existential view, and I think that in a positive way they would say, they would argue that it's liberating you from some crusty old religion,
other restraints. Yes,
and you are the master of your own destiny. Well, yeah, that's a lot easier said than done, Mister.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, you are liberated from these other constraints, but that's not necessarily a benefit. And it's in some ways it's freedom, it's liberation. Okay, here you are, you're free. Now what are you going to do? Yeah. Wait a minute, I got to make that decision now. So what's happened is people, I think the weight of all these things that we've imposed upon the self might be contributing to depression and suicide and anxiety.
Yeah, yes. The modern angst is from this liberation and freedom and obsession with the self. Like, what they're doing is they're breaking away from from back where we started. You're getting your identity from your group.
Yeah.
But I mean, so the guy says, "All right, look, I'm an Irish Catholic from Boston, and this is what we think, and this is how we live, and this is what we do."
Yeah. And
to the philosopher, I'd be like, "Gosh, you haven't examined yourself.
Yeah.
Why do you believe what you believe?
Yeah.
Are you only doing that? Are you in this totally conformist way? Mm-hmm. And have you asked your true self?
Yeah.
Is this for me?
Yeah. And for some people, that's incredibly liberating. They don't feel comfortable in this environment, and they feel like I got to break away, and I've got to find myself.
Find myself.
Yeah. So there's, for some people that's incredibly liberating, but for a lot of people it's not liberating at all. It's like, well, what am I? I mean, what's the logical song? They sent me away to teach me how to be logical, sensible. And then he says, won't you please tell me what we've learned? I know it sounds absurd. Please tell me who I am.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's part of the modern problem is people don't even know who they are. They don't know, they have no basis, no sounding, no foundation, because everything has been thrown up in the air. But when you say, have to pick this.
You're exactly right. But when you say, all right, I have to find out who I am independent of all these external forces.
Right.
Is it even possible?
No.
I mean, you end up as Dostoevsky's underground man, doubting your doubts.
Yes.
Am I even until he gets to the point where the only thing he can rely on is his toothache.
Yes.
Because that's the one thing that is definitely not being influenced by anybody else. So now what? You're down to your bodily functions,
right?
Because otherwise, no matter what you choose, it's not going to be independent of external forces.
Right.
There's no such thing.
There's no such thing. It's impossible. First of all, your biology has a lot to do with it. Second of all, your upbringing, which you had no control over, has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Where you grew up has a lot to do with it. The people you were friends with, the high school you went to, that all these things are shaping and directing you. The idea
if you try to deny, you're going to deny all of that, even if you could, but you can't.
Right.
You're just going to over-examine yourself to the point where you're paralyzed with doubt.
Yes.
And so, I mean, I don't know where the balance is, and I think eventually what we'll get to is Charles Taylor is going. He's not a negative Nancy about soul searching and authenticity and that kind of thing, but it's got to be done correctly. And I'm not sure that what we're seeing is, I mean, what is your true? Is anyone like really a furry? I mean, like, this is my right. I've discovered my identity here, and my true self is I'm going to. Well, no. What you have done, or look. The goth, the chick that after summer comes back to school is the goth chick.
Right.
How have you, or you're the rebellious, so you're the nonconformist and the rebellious. You've just adopted a different community.
Yes.
A different tribe.
Yes.
That is affirming. You know what I mean? You're still seeking affirmation.
It's not like you came up with something brand new.
No.
You're just latching yourself, and to a certain extent, the birds have to leave the nest, and teenagers have to express themselves, and that's a good thing. They need to kind of get out and I hate to use the term, but find themselves in a certain way. But you're right. They're not like inventing some new thing. They're just latching on to, oh, I'm going to be with the Renaissance Club. I'm going to be with the Goth Club. I'm going to be with the Dungeons and Dragons Club.
So
I'm going to be with the sports people.
So maybe you have moved yourself out of, let's just say, mainstream, middle America.
Right.
But just to a different community.
Yeah.
It's not like you're now some free spirit.
I'm getting rid of all those constraints. Oh, yeah, but now you've just adopted a different set of constraints.
Yes, right, because now you're the goth thing. You don't have the right color lipstick. Yeah. And, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's the right black lipstick.
We don't wear that pink.
Yes. So now you've got just new structures.
Right. That's right.
So, or you, aren't you just like, and possibly you're just like a self-absorbed a-hole who enjoys the attention of being, I'm the different one. Yeah. I'm the contrarian guy. I remember, so you're on the school bus, everybody's Redskins fans, and then there's a kid who's never been to Dallas, never been to Texas, but he's got to wear the Dallas Cowboys, and that is a personality trait that says so much more about this kid. Yeah. If your dad was from Texas and he raised you that way, I get that.
Fine.
That's cool.
Yeah.
No.
But sometimes
you just adopted this.
Yeah, it's just a finger in the eye.
It's just, right. Which says so much more about the kind of person you are. Yeah. I'm Mr. Contrarian. I want to go against the whatever. I mean, is he finding his true self, or is he just enjoying the attention of being that guy?
Yeah. All right, can I throw a spanner in here?
Por favor.
Okay, so this concept of the self, I was listening to some conversations by some philosophers that some people don't have as strong of a concept of self as other people.
Yeah.
Okay. So the concept of self is you're thinking that there's something that's continuous over time. You're thinking that you have a sort of an internal story, like I'm this kind of person. Right. That's sort of what we mean by the self. Like I was the same guy when I was 9 as I am now when I'm 12. And some people don't have that, apparently. And this reminds me of a conversation I had with a woman I used to work with, where she said, how some people have that internal dialogue going on in their heads? She says, I don't have that. Which just bewildered me, that someone like, what are you, dead? How can you not have that? But it turns out a large percentage of the population does not have a dialogue going on in their head at any given time. And apparently...
How is that even possible?
I don't know how it's possible. I don't get it. But that's apparently the experience. And some people don't have as strong a sense of self.
Sounds like the same people.
Maybe. But they don't have this internal... I'm this kind of person. They don't have this sense. They're just kind of living and going, doing this thing, doing that thing. But there's not as much of a strong sense of this continuity, which I find fascinating. But is there self-examination? Is there self-reflection? Like looking at checking your own motives? Yeah, exactly. I think that's the right question to ask, because when people don't have that kind of a perception, does that mean that they're not examining themselves, that they're not thinking about their thoughts, that they're not, they're avoiding introspection, basically?
Yeah, I mean, it's introspection. I mean, it's also, in a way, that's one of my definitions of consciousness itself is, you know what I mean? A cat doesn't think about its own thinking.
Right.
And that's what makes us human. How a human being would not think about their own thinking.
Maybe these people with no internal dialogue and with no sense of self are philosophical zombies.
You're right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Now, so with this idea of, skipping out on mainstream community, and just finding a smaller community, is directly related. This is why this is such a modern problem, to the online world.
Yes.
Because now you're small town, you live in a town of 5,000 people, whatever. Where are you going to find a community of weirdos? Well, online now. Yes. So I think there's so much more of this finding yourself Because you're not independently finding yourself. You're finding a new community that you think matches your true self.
You're trying to find the niche that you fit into.
And that niche is, believe me, I don't care what your situation is, you can find your niche.
You can find it online. That's right.
You can find it online. You might so that's why you would have you would have had the normal conformity and normal sense of self that you get through your local community existed forever up until the internet. Yeah. And now you can find it somewhere else, and now everybody can be a weirdo.
Yes, and you can join a community of the 1,000 other weirdos who have your particular stripe of weird, who are, they're all over the world.
And you would say, I have my stripe of weird, I just needed to find my people. Yeah. But did you really? Yeah. You know what I mean? Was it like the goth girl? Yeah. Wasn't she just like the kind of quiet, introspective, like kind of got bored easily and didn't like
this is exciting.
Didn't like family gathering or like kind of a brooding. Yeah. And then she found, there's a community of
people who are like that.
Like that. So
okay, now how about this? Supposedly Buddhists and some people who are really into meditation, contemplation, will say that the self is an illusion that you can transcend.
So, is that what's going on during your deep meditation? Is
supposedly
that you're separating yourself from yourself?
Yeah, what are you doing? I remember in philosophy class in college, the professor was talking about this, and he said there are people, alive today, walking around among you who have, through meditation, realized that they are one with the universe. And I said, who puts on their shoes in the morning? Yeah. And he looked at me with a funny expression and said, what do you mean? I said, well, who puts on their shoes? He said, I presume they do. Exactly. The universe doesn't put their shoes on. So, what does that even mean? This idea. So I get...
No, that's it.
I get the idea that under altered states with drugs, with meditation, with various kinds of things, that you can have some sort of an experience that transcends your normal experience. Mm-hmm. But I've never been convinced that is an alternate view to the idea that you have a self. I mean, it's still you meditating. It's still you taking the drugs. It's still you having that experience.
And the idea of this nirvana is so unsatisfying because it's like you are a droplet. You are a tiny little balloon. You're the water that's in this tiny little balloon. The little balloon is your body. The water that's inside is yourself. And then you know what? The whole thing just gets dumped into the ocean.
Yeah, that doesn't appeal to me at all.
So you're saying right? So there you go. There's the self completely disappears. Like and then what?
And then, right? Yeah,
does that sound satisfying?
No, it does not. I don't doubt that people who meditate and have these experiences find extreme joy and all this. I don't doubt their personal experiences. That concept of being absorbed into the infinite ocean or whatever has no appeal to me whatsoever. Absolutely none.
Thank you. Let me get Charles Taylor's Problems with Modern Authenticity.
Yeah, go for it.
Remember this here? Yeah. So Taylor, so some people would say that, like, since Rousseau, it's all been downhill. Yeah. And what Taylor is saying is he agrees authenticity is a moral advance, but says it's often distorted today. People mistake personal preference for moral truth, and you get the my truth relativism.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So yes, you have personal preferences. That's fine, and we all are individuals, and we all see the world in the way, but you can't separate out the real world, and call it my truth.
No, in a way, it's very childish. It's kind of like, there's this developmental stage that children go through where they assume that if they like something, everyone likes something.
Right.
And then they have to go through this stage where they realize, well, wait a minute, I like this, but that other person likes this other thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, that's
that's
a change in mind. It is a child development thing. It's a change in mind.
Right.
And this idea of my truth is sort of like, it's like you never made that step. The step you should have made when you were 2.5.
Yeah.
Right. You never made that step, and now you think I realize you like broccoli. I don't like, this is my truth. Broccoli is bad. It's just, it seems so childish.
Yeah, it's terrible. And it's like, I don't know. It's trying to elevate this simply having an opinion. That's fine, to some sort of cosmic level.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like, no, you just have an opinion.
Yeah, that's fine to have an opinion. You have your opinions. That's okay. That doesn't make it truth. It just means that it's an opinion.
How about, he says about this, my truth, the circular thinking of something is good because I think it's good, is how he criticizes this view of authenticity.
Yeah, well, big problem with authenticity is that people forget that they live in community, and that everything is a matter of relation. Like, if I come out and say, I am authentically Superman, and other people are like, no, you're not Superman, right? So just because you think something, just because you believe it, just because you think this is your authentic self, it makes absolutely no difference, because other people, it's what matters is the way other people perceive you.
Yes, and by you saying that does not put some obligation on me to accept that.
Right.
It's like, you can think that if you want, but you sound like a dummy.
Yes. My authentic self is that I love to steal things from other people. Well, okay, that means we're going to put you in jail, And this concept of the authentic self separated from your relationship to other people and social norms and everything else is just a ridiculous concept.
Yeah. Yes, the self-examination is fine, and questioning why do I really believe this, or has this been just put upon me?
Right.
But you still have to realize how it fits within the framework of your culture. Like, there's no way to extract yourself.
Yes.
From
your
influences.
Extract your what?
Your dumb self.
Extract yourself, which we don't even know what it is. Yeah. Yes, I agree. You can't. This idea of the authentic self is a very fraught problem, especially in the modern world where everybody, every person has his own source of value. So he thinks, if my life has no meaning, that's my fault, because it's my responsibility to find meaning. On top of that, is to create his own market, his own personal brand. He has to live authentically, but then at the same time, everybody else is judging him by these wacky, ever-changing standards. I mean, it's the whole modern approach to authenticity in the self. I think that's a big part of why we have such a problem with depression and anxiety and suicide, honestly.
Yeah.
Because here I am cast into this world, this chaotic world that has no meaning, and I have to find meaning in it.
Yes.
Like when did that become my problem?
Yeah. Yes. The pressure that you talked about earlier. The idea that this is liberating for everyone, that we don't have crusty old tradition and crusty old religion telling us how to be.
Yeah.
I am a free-thinking automaton, and I will decide what's good for me.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure. And there is
Sounds
something
like freedom.
There is something comforting to know that grandma's Thanksgiving table is going to have this food on it.
Yes.
That there are rules, there are boundaries, there's a way that you live, and that's not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing. And it's worked for 99% of all the human history.
Yeah.
And now we've decided to, throw it in the toilet and say...
And find ourselves. Yes.
But where do you strike the balance of the good parts of that, of stretching your wings and finding out what do I really think and what do I really believe, but you have to have... It takes a lot of work, and you have to. If you're not willing to, don't make me say put in the work. I don't want to say it. Make the effort.
Yes.
Of self-examination.
Yeah.
Of why do I believe what I believe? But it also has to be in the context of community. In that the values that I choose have to be. They can't be totally selfish.
Yeah.
Right? These are the things that I value. How can I have the most fun? How can I? Right? I mean, it has to be in the context of what can I contribute.
And also, why do you get the right to say that, independent of everything else that's ever existed on the planet and everybody else that you live around and your family and your community and everything else? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a modern
conundrum.
It's a modern problem, and it's. The internet has made it worse.
Yes.
I don't know. I've thought about this, especially with the AI. I wonder. I'm just going. What do I? And you see these memes showing people enjoying themselves in the 70s.
Yeah.
And going.
I wish I was back.
Could I go?
Can I go back?
Could I really go pre-internet? I mean, have I? See, I have the benefit of having, become a fully formed adult.
Yeah.
Without it. It would probably break anybody under 40 years old.
Yeah.
To go back to that.
I know.
But
and there's no phone? There's no phone to look at all the time?
Yeah. All the time.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, I don't mind if you say do the work, but if you ever say lean in, I'm probably going to elbow you. Yeah.
I don't know. I probably have used that. Not around you. All right. Well, be good to yourself.
Whatever that is. Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.